Welcome guys once again to the best math channel in the world. Say on Bizzy made it easy channel. The only channel exam fears when it comes to mathematics. This is the only channel we break down mathematics concepts and principle for everyone to understand it. And when you keep watching this channel, your failure in mathematics will be a thing of the past. We are here once again to continue our coordinate geometry lessons. And today we are going to learn about finding the gradient in a linear graph. Finding a gradient in a linear graph. Now, what I need to explain here is that what you have to understand is that we have done so many lessons, or we have treated so many lessons which involve gradient. Yes, this is the most important aspect of learning about the gradient. And I've told you, gradient has so many uses in life. Calculate for a slope of something or how the steepness of anything, we use the gradient formula. Now, in the linear graph, we have so many types of graph. So the linear graph, which is the graph involving a straight line. To find the gradient of that given graph, you locate any point, any 2 points. So if here is A, B, C, and D, you locate 2 points, then you trace with a dotted line like this, forming a triangle. So what you need to understand is that this side is your x1, y1, here is your x2, y2. Somebody can also say x2, y2, then x1, y1. In any of them, you are going to get the same gradient. Yes, so we can also have a graph in a normal Cartesian plane with an x-axis and y-axis. Yes, so when the graph goes like this, the graph can go like this, it can go like this. All of them, you should be able to calculate for the gradient. So what you need to understand is that we have types of gradient. We have types of gradient. Types of gradient. So we have positive gradient. We have negative gradient. Then we can have our zero gradient. This channel, we are going to focus on only these three using your linear graph. Now, why am I saying that? Your graph or the line you are going to get in your graph will determine the type of gradient. So if you have a graph like this, going this way, this is a positive gradient. Positive gradient means any 2 points you pick, when you calculate for the gradient, you get a positive number. Now, when you have a graph also going like this is a negative gradient. When you pick any 2 points, you are going to get a negative answer for that. And now when you get a graph like this, and it is going this, it is going this, or it is going the other way around, you are going to get, we have what called zero gradient. Yes, zero gradient. So sometimes after drawing your graph, they will ask you what type of gradient is that. You can determine that by knowing the answer you are going to get, or you can also know it by the direction of the what? Of the graph or the linear graph you have drawn. So these are the three main types of gradient you need to understand. Yes, and we are going to have a question. Although this is not a graph board, we are going to manage and explain it. The most important thing is getting the concept. Yes, understanding the concept, and this is the main reason this channel was created. If today is your first time, don't forget to subscribe, then you comment and share for everyone. Say I'm Bizzy Made It Easy channel on all platforms. So we are going to take a question on how we calculate for gradient using the linear graph. A scale of 2 centimeters to 1 unit on the x-axis and 2 centimeters to 2 units on the y-axis. Plot the point A, -2, 4, B, -1, -2, C, 1, 2, and D, 3, 6. The A says on the graph sheet, join the point to form a straight line. Then on B, they are saying we should find the gradient of a line. This is a simple question on that. And now in graph, they normally give us scale. So when you see 2 centimeters to 1 unit, what does it mean? 2 centimeters to 1 unit means that each box, when you have your graph sheet, this big box, so each bigger box, when you measure with the ruler and it is a standard graph, you get 2 centimeters. So you can try that if you have a graph sheet. When you measure with the ruler, you get 2 centimeters. Every standard graph, when you measure, gives you 2 centimeters. Now, to 1 unit means that the numbering should be what? The interval between the numbers should be 1. Excuse me. So this one start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, -2, negative. When you see 2 centimeters to 2 units, it means the number should be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. When you see 2 centimeters to 5 units, it means 5, 10, 15. The interval normally determines the units on each of the graph. So this is one thing I'll teach you with regards to what we are come to do today. Sometimes the scale confuses students. Yes, so 2 centimeters to 1 unit. When you measure your ruler, when you measure the graph with the ruler, you get 2 centimeters. But the number will determine the unit given to you in the question. Yes. So this one, we were given that 2 centimeters to 1 unit. So let's manage this space here. So what we have to understand is that this is our x-axis, y-axis, x-axis, and y. And this is our origin. And this side of the x-axis are positive numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then this side of the y-axis are negative numbers. So -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, then -6. Then this side of the y-axis is also positive numbers. So here we have our -1 here, -2, -3, -4, and -5. So let's manage this mini graph here. So this is the scale they've given us, and indicating the x and y axis is very, very important because marks are awarded for that. So they say we should plot A, -2, 4, and for any pair of coordinates, any pair, when you see 1, 2, the one is to be located on the x. This is the x coordinate, the second one is y coordinate. So take note of that. So the A says -2, -4. So -2 on the x is here. The -4 on the y is here. So here A, -2, -4. Then you write it nicely. Then the B says -1, 2, -1, then 2. So let's take it as here. So B, -1. So the B, let me write it here. B, -1, -2. Then C is 1, 2. So 1 here and 2 on the Y. Let's say they will meet here. So C, 1, 2. Then D is 3, 6. 3 here. So let's say 6. They will meet somewhere here. So D, 3, 6. So these are the points we are expecting on the graph. These are the points we are expecting on the graph. So they are saying on the graph, join the point to form a straight line. So pardon me because I'm using my free hand. So say we should join to form a straight line. I'm using my free hand, but with the correct ruler, you get a straight line. Yes, you get a straight line for that. So these are the points. I've joined it to form a straight line. Now they are saying find the gradient of the line. This is the most important thing I want to teach here. Finding the gradient. So the gradient, look here. Anywhere you pick the point, you should get the same. Any 2 points you pick, you should get the same answer. So here I have A, B, C, and D. So first of all, let me try the C and D. So I'll use my dotted line here. So let me write the C down. The C here. The C coordinate was 1, 2. So I'll use my dotted line to indicate where I pick the gradient from. So the gradient of CD, line CD. So the C, 1, 2. Then the D is 3, 6. So my X1 is 1, Y1 is 2, X2 is 3, Y2 is 6. Now my gradient, Y2 minus Y1, X2 minus X1. Now the gradient Y2 is 6 minus Y1, 2. Now X2 is 3 minus X1, 2. So the top one will give me 4, the down one, oh sorry, the X1 is 1, will give me 2 here. So this will divide here, 1, divide here. So 2 on 1 is the same as 2. So what did I get for the gradient? 2. Yes, I've gotten the gradient 2. I picked this point. Now let me come and pick the AB. Now gradient of AB. Gradient of AB. Yes, gradient of AB. Now my A was -2, -4. Now B is -1, -2. So now my X1 here is -2, Y1 is -4, X2 is -1, Y2 is -2. So now follow closely. The gradient, so the gradient Y2 minus Y1, X2 minus X1. Now what is Y2? Y2 is -2 minus Y1. Y1 is -4. Then X2 is -1 minus X1, -2. Now the top one give me -2 plus 4. Then the down one give me -1 plus 2. Yes, now -2 plus 4, you're only 2 and you paid with 4, here will be 2. Then -1 plus will also give me 1, so which will give me what? 2. So you see, I've gotten the gradient here, the same gradient. And what type of gradient is, if the question asks, this is a positive gradient because of the direction of the line, and I cite that, you can see that I'm getting positive answers for that. So when I pick the AB, I'll still show the same dotted line. So if you are using the linear graph, this is how it works. Now, let's assume that I'm not going to clean anything. Somebody has picked the A and the D. Yes, the A and the D. So gradient, let me calculate it here. Gradient. The gradient of A, D. So gradient, let me use the M. Y2 minus Y1, X2 minus X1. Now follow here. I'm calculating for a gradient of AD. Somebody is picking this point and the last point. So now the numbers start from here as they move up. So what is my Y2? My Y2 will be the what? The 6 minus Y1. Y1 is what? -4. Now my X2 is 3 minus X1, -2. So the top one give me 6 plus 4. And the down one give me 3 plus 2. So follow close. The top one gives 6 plus 4 is 10. The down one is what? 5. So 5 we divide here 1, divide here 2. So you see, I've gotten the same 2 as the gradient. So when you draw your straight line, anywhere you pick the point, you get the same gradient. So it doesn't matter where you pick your point. So straight line, wherever you pick your point. Somebody can also pick the B and the C. You can try that. If you don't get 2, it means you are wrong. Yes. So when the main focus here, so you pardon me for the not using the graph board for that. But the main concept is what I want to teach you how to calculate for the gradient on the linear graph. So when they give you the question after plotting, wherever you pick the gradient, you have to indicate it to a straight line. The dotted line form a triangle to show where you pick the point from. Yes, somebody can also pick the top one, the down one, then the 2 middle ones. You still get the same gradient because they are on the same line. So this is how we calculate for the gradient on a given straight line. So we are quickly going to take another question on this. Don't forget to subscribe. So the question 2 on the screen, using a scale of 2 centimeters to 2 units on the y-axis and 2 centimeters to 1 unit. So the second question is using a scale of 2 centimeters to 2 units on the y-axis and 2 centimeters to 1 unit on the x-axis, plot on the same graph sheet the following point. Sometimes the point or the coordinate can be given in a tabular form, and this is what is on the screen. So the x values are given and the y values are also given. 1, -1, -2, -3. Then we have y -4, -2, -0, 2, 4, and 6. So we are going to plot each pair. Each one, you pick the x and the y, x and the y, x and the y. And the scale given to us was 2 units on the y-axis. And I've explained that, the scales. So let me use freehand here. So we have the origin here. So the x-axis is going to be 1. The intervals are going to be 1, 1. So the x-axis, then we have our y-axis. We have our y-axis. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 2 centimeters to 2 units. So we have -2, -4, -6, -8, -10, then -12. So here will give us 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I'm making it so because when you divide the graph into 2 equal parts, on the x-axis you get 5, 5, then the y-axis you get 6, 6. That's why I'm doing it so. So here will be -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. So pardon me for the freehand or the plain board. So we are going to plot each pair. So -2, -4. So -2 on the x, then negative board. So the x-axis we have 2, 1, 1, -1, -2, -3. Then we have -4, -2, 0, 2, 4, 6 on the y-axis with a scale 2 centimeters to 2 units on the y-axis, 2 centimeters to 1 unit on the x-axis. So the first one, they are saying we should plot +2 and -4. +2 on the x is here, then -4 on the y is here. So we have +2, -4. Then the next one is 1, 1, -2. So 1, -2. So they are meeting here. So 1, -2. Then the next one is 1, 0. 1 on the x, 0. They are going to meet here. So 1, 0. Then we have -1 on the x, 2. So -1 on the x, then 2 on the y. They are going to meet here. So -1, 2. Then the next one is negative 2, 4, negative 2, then 4. So 4 is here, negative 2, they are going to meet here. So negative 2, then positive 4. Now, with the linear graph, when you are doing it, you should expect your straight line. Then we have negative 3, 6, negative 3, 6. So we have it somewhere here. Yes, negative 3, 6. So on the same graph, to join the point to form a straight line. So pardon me for the free hand. When you use a correct graph, you expect a straight line. Yes, so these are my points. These are my points. Yes, these are my points on the straight line like this. So find the slope of the line. And I've told you slope is the same as gradient. So we can pick any point. We can pick any point. So this one, I'm not going to waste my time. I'll pick the top two, the down two, then one from top, one from down as well. So let's say I'm picking these two. So I'll label here M, then I'll label here N. So gradient of Mn. So my M is negative 2, 4, then my N is negative 3, 6. You see, the other one was going this way, and I said it was positive gradient. Now this is going this way, it is negative gradient. Now let's see if it is true. Our answer will determine 4. So x2 is negative 3, y2 is 6. So the gradient is y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Now what is y2? 6 minus y1, 4. x2 negative 3, x1 negative 2. So follow closely. So 6 minus 4 will give me 2. Then let me even repeat the top one because of the negative down. So this will give me plus 2. So this one will give me 2 out of negative 3 plus 2. You're only 3, you pay 2. So it will be negative 1, for which will give me negative 2. So the gradient, yes, has given me negative 2. So the line will even give you a clue that when you calculate for the gradient, you should expect either a positive or a negative answer. Yes, so this is a negative slope. That's what you need to understand, and that's the trick in that. So let me pick the last two down here. So let me label here x and y. So gradient of x, y. So my x is 2 negative 4, my y is 1 negative 2. So the gradient y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So what is my y2? y2 is negative 2. y1 is negative 4. Then x2 is 1, x1 is 2. So the top one will give us negative 2 plus 4 all over 1 minus 2. Negative 2 plus 4. We're only 2 and you paid with 4, so each one with 2. Then 1 minus 2 will be negative 1, which will also give me negative 2. Interesting. Yes. So when they ask you what type of gradient is that, the line will even determine. Yes, that's why I explained in the earlier, the introductory lesson, or the introductory part of this lesson, that when the line goes like this, it's a negative slope. When it goes like this, it's a positive slope. So we can't see a line going like this for you to get a negative answer. No, it doesn't happen like that. Yes, it doesn't happen like that. So with this, I'm going to pick the last, any two. Don't forget that any 2 points you pick on the straight line, you should get the same gradient. Yeah. So pardon me for how small the graph is. Yes, you can use the correct graph to do that. Yes. So I want the main thing is for you to understand how the gradient is calculated on the linear graph. Yes. So I'm going to pick the last two. So the x here and the n. Yes, the x and the n, for which you can also use your dotted line to join them. So when you pick where you pick the point from, you have to indicate it so that the examiners will know where you are picking your answers from. So gradient of so the gradient of so we are going to find gradient of xn. So we are picking the x and the n. So x. So let me even interchange it. Nx, nx. So n is negative, then x is 2 negative 4. So my gradient, which is small m, y2 minus y1, then x2 minus x1. Where y2 is negative 4 minus y1, 6. x2 is 2, x1 negative. So this will give me negative 4 minus 6 here, then 2 plus 3. So negative 4 minus 6 will give me negative 10. Then the down one will give me 5, for which when I divide, I'll get negative 2. So you see the x, the nx. See, I normally pick the point from down to the top. You see, this one I pick it from the top to the down, and I still got the same gradient. Yes. So it's a matter of getting the straight line correct, plotting your coordinate correct, and if you're able to plot them correct, wherever you pick the two numbers, you are going to get the gradient. Some questions will ask you what type of gradient is that. So with this is a negative gradient. How do we determine a negative gradient? The direction to the left side, then the gradient, the answer you are going to get. So you can try that. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 points here. So you can pick any pair to see if you get the same gradient. So this brings us to the end of the finding the gradient using the linear graph. Yes, finding the gradients using the linear graph. There's going to be a last lesson on this coordinate geometry, and it can only be simplified on this channel. If today is your first time seeing us, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Thread, on TikTok, and everywhere to learn mathematics to the easiest level. This is your Bizzy Made It Easy channel, and watch out for more interesting lessons. Until we meet again, say goodbye for now.